Hello and thank you for joining us on TVC News. We begin in Kebbi State, where a notorious bandit kingpin, Dogo Gide, has released 4 of the 11 remaining students of the federal government college, Yauri, Kebbi State. After collecting a huge ransom of money as ransom, it emerged that 2 of the released students returned with 2 babies delivered while in captivity. Dogo Gide had insisted that some conditions must be met by Kebbi state government before the remaining girls could be released. Sources added that the ransom had to be generated by the parents and other stakeholders when Kebbi state government was reluctant to meet the bandits' demands. All the 11 students were kidnapped when bandits invaded their school on the 17th of June 2021. Now, security expert and CEO Beacon Consulting Limited, Kabir Ahmed Adamu, joins me now for more perspectives on this. Good to have you on this matter. Good to have you on the news at this time. So, what's your perspective, on the situation? What happened in Kebbi State, and do you think perhaps we're going to see an end to this matter?
Okay. Good evening, and Barka Dafalla. I'm not sure. I didn't get the first part of your question. It was silent. Can you please repeat?
So I want to have your perspective first off on this security challenge we're experiencing in Kebbi State, and how do you think it can be resolved soon?
Okay. So Kebbi State straddles first off on the one part. It shares borders with foreign countries such as Niger, and so part of the security challenges are coming in from that axis. Now within Nigeria, it shares borders with Niger State. And of course parts of Sokoto, and to an extent Zamfara State. So some of the banditry challenges that this state, especially a state like Niger, has experienced, has affected Kebbi State. In this particular episode, the abduction of the Yauri girls, pupils, the general perception it was that the location where they are holding them straddles both Kebbi State and Niger State. So just like we've maintained in the past, solving this challenge would involve, incorporating multiple factors, understanding that these groups run between states in the northwest, and to an extent also across the Nigerian border. But I think it's really worrisome and quite sad that students who went to school were abducted. They stayed in the hands of this vicious, I lack what to even describe him, for up to 2 years. And now he's releasing some of them. I think about 7 are still in captivity. There were 11 remaining. So if he has released 4, 7 are still in captivity. And it's almost inconceivable that he's holding them within Nigerian territory for this period of time.
And let's talk about the students that have just been released. 2 of them are already with babies. How do you feel about this, knowing that these are young children who were taken from their school and now turned to mothers all of a sudden? How do you think they can, be reintegrated into the society?
Every part of me condemns this and rejects it as wrong. We can't, as a society, condone this and move on as if nothing has happened. These parents took these kids to school, and in my understanding, the school now became the custodians of these kids. And for the integrity of the security of that school to have been violated, and over 100 of them were taken, it means that school has failed, and there must be consequences. And I think this is something that as a society, we should make sure going forward, whenever there are failures like this, there are consequences. But beyond that, what has happened has happened. These kids and their parents need psychosocial support. They need to be evaluated to get a sense of how, in terms of their psychological well-being, their physical well-being, and other medical considerations. And where they need, treatment, we need to make sure that they get that treatment. We can't. There are several instances I can cite to you where you would see clearly that victims and the families of the victims have not received any form of social support. And this is wrong. They have been mentally affected. Even that I'm not, in any way related to them, I can feel the depth of, the psychological, weight of all of this. What more of the victims and then their family members. So psychosocial support, I think, is absolutely important, and then some other form of palliatives that would help them go through this very difficult period. Of course, the kids are something that very difficult really to determine, because they will be kind of symbols that would remind these victims and their parents consistently. But there are experts for this, and as a country, we need to bring in those experts to talk to the victims, talk to the families, and then advise them. We can also borrow from the experiences of other parts of the world where they've all suffered similar fates, and see how they've gone through it, and see whether there are things that we can borrow here. Of course, our religious clerics, we need to also step in and provide some form of counseling to them. So on the whole, as a people, I think we need to show up. We need to support these people, and where we see indications that they need some form of medical support, that we give it to them.
All right, let me quickly ask you this before I let you go. What can be done to boost security of our schools, particularly in volatile regions in the north?
So a lot has been done by the Buhari administration. The Ministry of Education launched a new policy on protection of schools. That remains to be implemented. It was borrowed from several measures that were practiced around the world, and so it has incorporated. In fact, Nigeria hosted the world, I think 2 years ago or last year, whereas just before that conference, Nigeria launched that document. Now, that document requires input from virtually everyone in society, and as well as the international community, so that we can start implementing the provision of that document. And in my honest opinion, especially as an expert, if we implement the provision, which has 4 components. Number 1 is the physical integrity of the security components within the school. So make sure, for instance, there are fences, and those fences, the integrity of those fences are such that they can't be easily violated. Then the community where the school is hosted, they do have a role to play. These threat elements are not ghosts. They either subsist within the community or they come through the community to get to the school. So that policy has a provision for the community. Then the security forces, especially the police, and to an extent the civil defense, they do have a responsibility, as well as the military. They are another layer of protection. And then the staff, both academic and non-academic staff, as well as the pupils, the students themselves. So there are various components that would need to be implemented. But I'm very happy with that policy. It just needs to be implemented. But for my closing remark would be for the incoming administration. Like they've promised in their security manifesto, there are good things that the Buhari administration have done that they've promised to take up and implement. I think this is one of them, implementation of the policy on safe schools. All right, and that's a fine place to leave it. Kabir Adamu, security expert, CEO, Beacon Consulting Limited. We appreciate your insights on the news at this time. Thank you for having me.